your mission if you choose to accept it in Mission Impossible, right? But one thing that we sometimes forget is, what is really our mission as a CISO, as a chief information security officer, as a chief officer, as one of the key executives in the company, the person who's building the strategic plan for cybersecurity. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a chief information security officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. It is time, my friends. It is time. It is time. You know what time it is? You know what time it is? It is time for Life of a CISO with yours truly. Dr. E is in the house. We all love movies. We love lines from movies, right? One of the famous lines that people always say and always record is, your mission if you choose to accept it in Mission Impossible, right? But one thing that we sometimes forget is, what is really our mission as a CISO, as a chief information security officer, as a chief officer, as one of the key executives in the company, the person who's building the strategic plan for cybersecurity? Do we really have a clear mission for 3, 5, and 10 years? And this is one that I've been doing a lot with myself. And I've been sort of realizing where I always like to go root cause. I struggled as a CISO, right? CISOs still struggle. We talk about a lot of the challenges and the issues and sort of getting that to be a real position in the company where you're one of the top core executives. But if we really step back, one of the root cause problems is, do we really have a long-term vision for cybersecurity? If you look at most businesses, I've worked with a lot of startups. I've reviewed a lot of business plans for investment purposes. I work with VCs. I've worked with Fortune 50, $500 million, billion-dollar companies. And if you look at almost all of them, whether you look at the big Google, Amazon, Apple, or smaller startups, almost every one of them has 5 and 10-year plans for the business. They have future planning. Now, it's not always sort of like specific, right? But they sort of have future goals of where they're going. You really think Google or Amazon or Tesla or X or any of those favorite companies, you think they're just rolling the dice every day going, okay, let's see where this goes? No, they have an idea of, do they want to merge? Do they want to get acquired? Do they want to take over? Do they want to integrate with others? And it's funny because those are usually very, very sensitive, confidential, right, highly classified documents that are not released to the public. But if you just sort of imagine where things are today, imagine what Tesla or Google or Facebook or TikTok, what their 5 or 10-year business plan looks like. Right? That could get really scary, right? Especially you tie AI into it, you tie all those other factors, right? It can start to get really scary really quickly when you start doing that. But it's funny. Businesses know that you need to have long-term strategy. You need to not only know where you're heading, but have some targets. Now, you might change, you might adjust, you might adapt, but you just can't go out in the ocean and just sort of sail around. You have to have direction, target, and focus. So this idea of 5 and 10-year planning is something that's not new when it comes to businesses and forecasting and those types of things. But for some reason, it seems when it comes to even personal life, careers, and even when it comes to Chief Information Security Officer, we've often forgotten about that. Like I talk to a lot of CISOs, and I'm guilty, and I'm slowly changing and fixing that. But I talk to a lot of CISOs where I sort of go, where in your life, let's just step back. Let's focus on your career. Not where your company's at, none of that. But currently, your career. Where do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years? Do you actually have a clear vision of where you want to be, what you want to make, where you want to live, what is your lifestyle, what are all those other factors in play? And the reality is most of us don't, because technical people, we are focused, we are trained. Really good cybersecurity people. What are we really good at? Firefighting. We're really good at problem solving. We're really good at incident response. Our skill set is all about, okay, let's find an immediate problem. Let's find an issue. Let's find something that's going to cause problems in the near future and address and fix it as quickly as possible. Right? When we're doing pen testing, we're not doing a pen test going, okay, let me see, what is this application going to look like in 5 years? And let me hypothetical. No, we don't. I mean, we take the current version of the application, the current running code, the current version today, real time. Not a year, not 5 years, 10 years, today. And we go in and we look for IP addresses and ports and services and vulnerabilities and areas to exploit on the system. We look at all those different factors, all those different components. And then we say, okay, today, what are the biggest vulnerabilities? What are the highest threats with likelihood? Which vulnerabilities can have the biggest impact? And then we start to calculate the risk of the system today. Not in 5 years, not in 10 years. So our jobs are all very current, focused on today. Where are the current weaknesses? Where are the current exposures? Where are the current vulnerabilities? And we're not really thinking long term. It's all about immediate, securing, protecting, controlling the data today. And that's great. That makes us brilliant. But here's the reality. That can also then be a detriment. Because when it comes to us focusing in on where we want to go and what we want to be, we're often very short-term focused, right? Because that's what we're really good at. So what we need to do as professionals, cybersecurity, CISOs, is we need to get a lot better at forecasting the future, at looking at where do we want to go? What is the future going to look like? What do I want to be? Who do I want to become? How do I want to show up in 5 or 10 years? So I'll urge you, this week's exercise, where I always give you a little exercise, a little homework, little things to work on. But just try this exercise. It's going to be a little weird for some of us. It was super weird for me the first time I did it. What if you took out a piece of paper, if you're old school like me, and a pen? I sort of like paper and pen. Here's why. The brain's an interesting thing. If we are committing to something permanently, we tend to not want to put it down. So that's why electronics and like going into your iPad or things like that, a lot of people don't like doing it. So like, it's going to exist forever. But here's the cool part. You take out a piece of paper, you start writing some stuff down. You don't like it, you can throw it away, you can destroy it, you can shred it. Right? So there's a lot less commitment on that. So I like when I'm doing initial brainstorming, initial long-term planning, things that I'm just really just sort of throwing things at the wall to sort of see what's out there, what's available, what options are there. I actually like to use paper because at least with me in my mind, it gives me more flexibility. There's no commitment. No one else is going to see it. It's not going to list forever. I don't have to worry about it being stored on cloud storage and archived by AI or anything like that. So it's just a way to just sort of reset your brain. So just if you're having trouble doing these types of exercises, switch from a computer or an iPad to a piece of paper. Now, if you want to use an iPad, go for it. I'm just giving you some options here. But what if you took out a piece of paper? What if you took out a pen and 30 minutes, you went in and you just said, okay, how much money would I like to make in 10 years? What title would I like to have? What ideally would my position be? Would I be running my own company? Would I be working for another company? Would I be retired? Would I be working multiple jobs? Would I be a consultant? And just start getting down a general idea of where you would like to be in 10 years. I know a lot of people, and I do this exercise with my clients, are like, well, I just don't know. I really have no clue. I'm like, okay, but what if you did? What if you just dreamed, right? Imagination. Right? We tapped into that amazing imagination field. We just went and we're just going to imagine the future. No judgment, no rules, no nothing. Just where you're at right now. Just currently at you. Close your eyes, right? Take a deep breath and just sort of go, okay, just nothing committing here. Just crazy thought. What would I like to do, be, or have in 10 years? And it's a liberating exercise because it basically takes away any limitations. Because when we're doing yearly planning, we're doing quarterly planning or monthly planning, that is a much more realistic, right? Because, hey, you only have 12 months, or you only have 3 months, or you only have 1 month. So there's a factor of reality that has to come into play. But when you're going in and saying, I have 10 years, I have 120 months to accomplish this, there's so much more degrees of freedom. And that's why you hear the phrase, and it's so true, most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. That's why so many people struggle with New Year's resolutions and goals and targets, is because they think they can do so much more in a year, and time flies. I mean, can you believe that it's March? I don't know when you listen to this. You might be listening to this March or April. Can you believe we're already 25%? 25, a quarter of the pie is gone in a couple weeks. I mean, you talk about years flying by, right? Go really, really quick. And that's where you see a lot of people at the beginning of the year, we tend to forget about all the other things in life. We forget about all the other factors, and we go in and say, oh, I want to accomplish all these things, but we don't realize putting them all together takes a lot more time. So that's why people often overestimate on a year. But if you give yourself 10 years, it's a whole new level of freedom. It's a whole new level of exposure. And once again, with this exercise, I usually jump in the middle. And what I mean by that is you can sort of approach this from two levels. When you're looking at 10 years, you can sort of do a top down. So you can start off and say, okay, my life in general, like generally with my life, where do I generally see my life as a whole? And then you would start going specific. Okay, how do I see, what do I look like? What is my fitness? What is my health? What is my mindset? What are my beliefs? What are my relationships? What are my friends, my friendship, my family? What is my business? What is my revenue? What is my investment? And then you start drilling down, and then you take each one of those and you can go a little more deeper. Or you can do a bottom-up approach. So some people are going to start off, and this often happens when you have sort of a health scare. So if you have a health issue or a health emergency, you sort of wake up and the doctor goes, listen, I don't know if you've ever had this conversation. I've had this a few times and I've gotten a lot better at it. But you basically go to the doctor, and you've been going to the doctor for a couple of years, and you get your yearly physical or your yearly blood work. And the doctor comes in and they sort of have that look where it's like, it's not bad news. It's not great news. It's sort of, awareness news. And they go in, okay, we have to have this conversation. And the conversation goes like this. If we looked at your blood work by itself, it's okay. Your blood work is within the normal ranges for somebody in your age group. And you take a deep breath. Okay, good. But they go, however, if you look at the last 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, your cholesterol has been increasing by 10 or 15 every year. Now, it started off really low. So 3 years ago, it went up by 15, and then 15 and 15. So now it's up by 45 if it's 3 years, or even higher if it's 5 or 6 years. But here's the reality. If you continue doing what you're doing, and you continue to increase your cholesterol by 15 points every year, in 10 years, you're not alive. In 15 years, you're not alive. So it's one of those where, okay, you're on a trajectory that's not looking good, right? If you don't make changes now, you're going to have major health issues down the road. This is the whole idea of what I believe in with preventive or proactive medicine. We're actually stepping back and saying, okay, today it looks okay. But if we're looking at trending, we're looking at the trending data over the last 3, 5, 10 years, the more trending data you have, the better. Where are we heading in a direction that looks good? And are we heading in a direction that is going to get us where we want to be? So we start doing those things. So that's sort of the bottom up, where you get a physical, you go to the doctor, and they're like, okay, you're okay today, but in 10 years, you're not looking good. So then you say, okay, in 10 years, if I want my cholesterol to be X, what changes or adjustments do I need to start doing now to start lowering it, modifying, or changing it so I could be at this number in 10 years? So that's sort of your bottom-up approach. What I like to do is sort of do the hybrid where you sort of jump in the middle. I sort of like to jump in the middle and say, okay, with your career, because a career is a key factor that dictates a lot. Whether we realize it or not, your career goals are going to potentially impact health, mindset, and relationships. If you go in and you say in 10 years, you want to build a $50 million company with an 8x valuation, and currently you're making $100K, that can be done. But it's going to put a strain on relationships. It's going to add a lot of stress to your life, and it could potentially impact your health. On the other hand, if you're making $500K and you're in a career that you like, and you're like, okay, this is my career. I have a pension. I have a retirement. I'm set. And basically, in 10 years, I may be going to get a 10% increase each year. So maybe in 10 years, I'll be about $700K, and I'll have X amount saved, and I'll be able to retire. Or I'll be able to do this or do that. That's a lot different, because now you're in cruising altitude. Right now, you just have to maintain what you're doing. You're not going to do any major career changes. You're where you're at. You want to stay in that current job. So now your focus is just, how can I keep performing at an optimal level to keep this job? I want to stay at this company for 10 years. So is the company healthy? Is my position fine? Am I going to get a promotion or two? And you plan it out. Now, in that scenario, you can actually have a lot more time with family and friends. A lot less stress on your mindset, and you can actually focus more on exercise and fitness and other factors. So to me, where you want to be in your career as a world-class CISO is sort of the foundational element that's going to drive all those other pieces. So once again, urge you, there's no right or wrong. Don't be judgmental. But what if you actually just took out a piece of paper for 30 minutes? Okay, 30 minutes, too crazy. 15 minutes. You wrote down whatever comes to mind. Just pick a number. Well, whatever it is. Now, you want it to be, when we're doing these 10-year plans, you hear different models. You hear sort of the SMART model or smarter or this. But essentially, what you want to try to do is sort of be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, but also excite you. also energize you, also you push the envelope. So for example, going in and saying in 10 years, I want to be successful. Not specific, not measurable, not really helpful. If you go, in 10 years, I want to make $800K or 10 million a year, specific and measurable. But now here's the question. Is that something you really want? It excites you and realistic? Because here's the reality. Any one of you listening to this, if you're listening to this podcast and you're focused on being a CISO, you're focused on investing yourself, here is the reality. The reality is every single one of you, if you wanted to, in 10 years, you could be making $10 million a year. Every one of you, that's true. Now, do you want that? Do you desire that? Does that excite you? Are you willing to put the sacrifices in? Because you'll make a lot of sacrifices. If you're single and you want to make 10 million in 10 years, guess what? You might still be single. You might not get married until 12 years because family and other factors are going to impact your ability to do that. So the question is, don't go there and just throw out crazy numbers. That's why I have a lot of problem when people do like vision boards and stuff like that, because what they're doing is they're being unrealistic. Like they're going through, and you say, go through magazines, go through different websites, go through things, and just anything that excites you. And people put together these crazy vision boards that have like billion-dollar homes, sports cars, all this crazy stuff. But the reality is, yeah, it's cool. Would it be cool to stay at a beautiful mansion overlooking the water in Greece for a week or two? Yeah. Do you actually want to own a $5 million home in Greece overlooking the water? Like, do you actually want to maintain it? Do you want to go to that area that often, that frequent? And it's one of those, so you put this picture down where you're like, yeah, it would be nice to visit, but you put it down on your vision board as, oh, I'd love to have a house in Greece, Italy, France, US, whatever it is in 10 years. But the reality is that's not really what you want. That's not really what you desire, and that it really doesn't interest you. So we create these vision boards that look cool. Yeah, it'd be fun to do these things, but they're not really what you want to be and where you want to be in life. So it's important that you're really dialing in realistically. Where do you want to be? What excites you? What are you willing to put in the energy and effort? What are you realistically to do, and what energizes you and excites you? And here's the thing. Put a number down. Don't put a number that's so easy. Like if you're making 500K, don't say 500K because that's, of course you're going to make more, but don't put 500 million if you really don't believe it. Like if you really don't want that, what do you really need to live and adjust? And by the way, this exercise is going to take time, because here's the reality. When you go in and you start going down, okay, how much money do I want to make? Or how much money do I want to have invested? Or how much money do I want to have in my savings account in 10 years? You probably have to do some calculate, right? You can guess going 5 million sounds cool. But if you just say 5 million and you don't really understand why or what it gives you or the math behind it, you're probably not going to hit the target. So you probably have to calculate going, if I want this and I want that. So here's the reality. I'm tricking you. I said, what if you spent 30 minutes? What if you spent 30 minutes twice a week? What if you spent 30 minutes 3 times a week? Okay, 30 minutes too much, 20. You're telling me that you can't spend 20 minutes 3 times a week, 60 minutes, an hour? You can't invest in your life? You can't invest in your future. So what if you just started for 15, 20 minutes, 3 times a week? You just sat there with a piece of paper and you just started jotting things down. And it might take a week, a month, or a year to solidify it, but you really started getting concrete of what it is you want. And then once you do that, then you do it for your company. Now, here's the hard part. Many CISOs I talk to are like, Eric, I'm probably not going to be at this company in 10 years. right? Because it's just not growing. And the position I want to be a CISO at a Fortune 50, and this is a small company. So you might not plan on being at the company, but wouldn't it still be helpful to go, what do we want our security to look like? What do we think the threats are going to be? What do we think the risks are? Because guess what? When IT is buying servers, when we're making decisions, when we're building out data centers, those data centers that we're building out or buying or renting or cloud, we sometimes are doing 5 or 10-year leases on it. So if they're going in and determining the size of the data center your company needs in 10 years, the amount of servers, the amount of resources, shouldn't you know the security and the other components that are tied to that? So I just sort of want you to spend some time this week sort of going in and focusing on what is your mission, where do you see yourself, and just start thinking 10 years out. It's a new concept for many of us, but the more you can think about the future and the mission, the more concrete and deliberate you'll get on what you're focused on and doing today.